What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another video. We have a lot to talk about as we get into the rest of this week's trading week, and it's most likely going to be relatively crazy. We have CPI coming up tomorrow. We just received PPI today. We have a lot of information to cover on that front, and as always, we're going to be covering some of the most relevant pieces of news as well of the charts in the short term to give you guys a better understanding of what to expect next on some of your favorite names here: Open, Neo, Palantir, HIMS, and Sofi here. So before we get into all of that information, everybody, if you guys do enjoy the information and analysis that I provide for you guys in these videos here, make sure you go down and hit that like button. It costs you nothing to do it, but it helps me out a whole lot in spreading this information out to as many people who actually want to learn. And again, if you're not subscribed yet, make sure you guys are and turn on notifications so you're notified every time these videos do end up getting posted live. And as always, massive shout out to all of the members of my private trading and investing community, Less Trades, More Profits. I'm going to throw up some of the gain screenshots on the screen right here, guys. One thing I will promise you, there's no guarantees in the market, but there is no other place that you are going to see results like this as consistently as I am handing them out. We have people turning $437 into over $5,000, making $20,000 on one trade, hitting these multi-hundred and quite honestly, really frequently these days, 1,000% gains every single week. This is the absolute best place to come and learn how to operate in the market, guys. You're never going to see anything like this ever again. Remember, prices are going up every single month for LTMP for the foreseeable future, but the price that you join at never goes up on you. So if you guys are interested in locking in the lower rate, coming and learning how to do this for yourselves and making some of these gains here, make sure you guys use code September with the link down below. That'll get you 50% off your first month, which I quite honestly shouldn't even be giving you guys that good of a discount anyway, but I'm feeling nice today. Hop in there with us. We'll get you going in the right direction so that you guys can start changing your trading performance here for the better. So let's get into everything that we need to talk about here with PPI. So this was a pretty interesting week. I think a lot of you guys saw the last time that we got this round of inflation data, we had CPI and then PPI, and this time it was flipped around. We get PPI today, the producer price index, and then we get CPI tomorrow. Now, the last time that we saw this big round of inflation data, we saw CPI come in pretty much in line with expectations, and PPI was very hot. And what that told us is that the producers were witnessing and kind of eating the vast majority of the cost increase that are resulting from these tariffs. So the cost increases were not actually really getting passed on to the consumer, which is exactly what we've been talking about on this channel here from that demand argument for really the last 9 months. Now, what did we see today? Well, there was a little bit of a risk, obviously, in the market that PPI could come in relatively hot and kind of shake things up going into the rest of this week here as we get into next week's FOMC meeting, which we are almost guaranteed to get an interest rate cut from the Federal Reserve. But we saw that the year-over-year estimate for PPI was 3.3%, and that number actually came in at 2.6%. In August, producer prices actually fell 0.1% month over month, with the estimate being at 0.3%. So relatively positive data on the inflation front for the market here, even though we are seeing a decent amount of volatility today. Now, what this does also do is it continues to weaken the stagflation argument that a lot of people have been harping on over the last couple of months here, as we have seen some pretty wild economic data across the board. So again, obviously we're going to see some volatility going into CPI as the market is getting a little bit worried and just kind of being a little bit uncertain as to what we are going to be receiving tomorrow. But again, I don't really see anything out in the market as of right now that would make me incredibly worried in the short term. So let's start going through a couple of these individual names here, guys. And I do want to start by talking about what I would say is kind of that new retail hype stock right now, and that is Open. So there's a lot of different things happening with Open here, and just to kind of outline this for everybody, I did give a really solid bullish entry point on Open here right around 265 to everybody in the LTMP group. And also everybody that watches the daily streams that I do every single day publicly on YouTube here at 10:30 a.m. Eastern time. So really solid moves to the upside here. But if you do follow me on Twitter, on Monday, I did outline for everybody that open was setting up for a parabolic short. And that is exactly what we have seen start to happen. We have a parabolic move to the upside with some significant gaps here, an invalidation of that opening 5-minute range here on open that we saw on Monday. And the stock has done nothing but go down ever since. That first target on this setup here is probably going to be right around that daily 10 exponential moving average at around $5.45 that we're currently seeing right now. And it easily could continue dropping to the downside, especially when you have people like, I believe his name is Eric Jackson out there, literally going out and begging rappers to buy shares of open to hopefully pump this stock even higher. Guys, that is an embarrassment to the finance community as a whole. And one thing that I've said before, I will say it again, it's going to sound like I'm kind of talking down here. But I mean, I just keep getting proven right, so I want to make sure that everybody's keeping themselves safe. Stop trying to hit lottery tickets in the market, ladies and gentlemen, and really trying to over leverage yourself into these very risky names. All of you guys see the results of LTMP. You don't need to take this crazy amount of risk in the market here, especially when I'm handing out to everybody multi-hundred and multi-thousand% gains every single week. So just be careful with this name. If we do end up seeing another setup on this name here, I will outline it for you guys. But as of right now, this parabolic short setup is continuing to play out. Hopefully you guys paid attention to the warnings that I was giving over here and are not caught in a really bad position here. Again, when a stock I outline is at 265, then it goes all the way into the 6s and 7s here. If you're buying a stock that is up like 2 or 3x in the last month, and it starts to go down aggressively on you, quite honestly, there's nobody else to blame but yourself. And that is the harsh truth about the market that everybody needs to learn. So moving on to this next name over here, let's talk about NEO. This is another one that we have been highlighting and also one of our most recent 1000% gain trade callouts in the LTMP community. That level that we were looking for it to break and start moving to the upside towards the middle of August here was that $5 area, and we saw an absolutely awesome move. Now that we've kind of gotten through NEO's earnings, we were seeing if NEO could start to set up around this area here, again forming a nice flag for us, kind of using this 10 exponential moving average here on the daily time frame as an area of support. But after we saw this news today on NEO pricing a billion share offering at $5.57 per ADS, 11% discount to previous close. Obviously, NEO is going to start selling off based on that. Now, what I will say for those of you guys that are NEO shareholders that are in this for the long run, again, and that's myself included in this. Now, again, I'm obviously not over leveraging in this one. I've talked to you guys ad nauseum about kind of my plans for NEO here. I only really have about 4,000 shares at $4.55, and I'm kind of treating this like an option. Either NEO is able to execute on their goals that they have outlined to shareholders over the next couple of quarters, or they aren't, and it's very binary, black and white in that sense. So thinking about NEO moving forward here, the silver lining that I want to kind of give to everybody is that, again, their cash burn did start to decrease here in the last quarter. They are being a little bit more efficient with the capital that they are spending and having this new kind of war chest for them to go out and deploy into maybe R&D or kind of expanding some of their product offerings here. I would view as a positive development here over the medium to the long run. But again, that dilution news is always going to be taken negatively by the market on the day that it is released. So moving on here a little bit, let's talk a little bit about Palantir. This is one that we've been talking about a lot too recently. Congratulations to everybody that's been paying attention here in LTMP or maybe on the live streams. But looking at this chart here on Palantir, one of the things that I have been talking about with this name from a technical perspective over the last few weeks here is that this is not a bullish setup at all. We have a nice move to the downside. It is using now that 10 exponential moving average as an area of resistance, and it was looking like this one could easily break to the downside, especially if the market started to give up. But I was talking about this really interesting development and kind of trend that we were seeing with Palantir, and that was the fact that these sellers were attempting very aggressively to push this one lower in this area right here, especially on Friday, September 5th, and the selling pressure could not stick. Sometimes, guys, the invalidation of a bearish setup can be an incredibly bullish setup, and that is what we were talking about with LTMP and in those videos, that I did think that there was a high likelihood that this one starts to snap back, and that's exactly what we started to see over this 161.20, 161.30 level here, and this trade is sitting at a very, very solid spot here. So in the short term, I do think that if the market can hold on here and we can get through CPI and have nothing really crazy happen, I do think Palantir could easily make an attempt back into the mid 70s in kind of the short term here. But again, in terms of kind of a longer term investment perspective, medium term investment perspective, this is still one that is wildly overvalued right now. It's not one that I personally would go out and buy, but it's definitely not one that I would go out and short. A lot of times I feel like with new market participants, or really just inexperienced market participants, they think there's really only two options when it comes to the market, and that's long or short. Guys, most of the time, the smartest decision that you can make in the market is cash and not taking any action. This is something that I say in the LTMP group and the streams a lot, is that everybody is really programmed from going through the education system or even working a job that there are certain actions that you need to take every single day in order to feel productive, maintain your employment status, or get the grades that you want in order to progress. The market, you have to turn all of that off. Most of the time, like I said, the smartest decision that you can make is actually no decision and to do nothing. Now, coming over here, let's talk a little bit about HIMS. This is one that I did outline for some initial ads or kind of further ads to some of your guys' mid to long-term positions on HIMS on Thursday, August 21st. The reason for that was that not only were we at a very, very solid level of support on HIMS, but we were also bouncing off of this 200 exponential moving average here on the daily time frame. And if you look at HIMS over the last kind of 2 years here, you can see that this 200 exponential moving average is respected relatively well. Now, again, there was a little bit of a bearish setup here, so I was outlining for everybody that this was not necessarily an area to go crazy on HIMS, but it is a decent spot if you want to start initiating either new long positions for the kind of short to medium term here, or kind of add to a HIMS position if this is one that you want to build out a more sizable position in your mid to long term investment portfolios. And then recently, I did give you guys this trade outline here too. With that break to the upside of 46.28, we saw some really, really positive action for a few days after that, but I ended up cutting this position for a small gain after we lost Monday's low here. Now, what I will say is that HIMS is actually setting up another really solid short-term bullish setup here. If we are able to break to the upside of about 51.66 here, we easily could go test that 55.50 range here, or even get all the way back up to 64 or 65. Again, if some positive news comes out, and as always, if the market is able to hold up. But from a fundamental standpoint, and for HIMS as an actual business, they are taking some very positive steps in the right direction here in expanding their product offerings. HIMS and Hers launches treatment plans for low testosterone. This can absolutely be another element of their business that can be a massive revenue driver over the medium to long term here. Now, the last name that I want to talk about with you guys today is Sofi. So we did see Sofi starting to break to the upside here of this 52-week high, but we were not able to see this name follow through, mainly due to the all of the volatility that we were seeing in the market today off of this kind of digestion of the PPI data that we witnessed this morning here. Now, I'm not going to say that Sofi is in a very bearish look here. It's in a relatively bullish look, actually, for the medium to the long term, but it's not great to see this 52-week high breakout being aggressively sold into by the market. So, as of right now, there's not really anything to do on Sofi. For those of you guys that have been around listening to these videos on the streams in the LTMP group over the last kind of year or so here, this is a name that I gave to the group initially. At $6.55. This has been a very, very strong performer for us over the last kind of year and a half here. And then recently, I also gave you guys the weekly breakout on Sofi at $13.60. Guys, I have a gift, finding stocks that are about to explode before they do. That is why you're able to see me come out and showcase just the most absolutely ridiculous gains from the students in the LTMP group every single week. That comes from a short-term trading perspective and also a long-term investing perspective, and is one of the main reasons why not only myself has been able to have such great performance over the years here, but also everybody in the group. So that is going to wrap up this video, guys. If you guys did enjoy the information and analysis I provided for you guys in this video, make sure you go down and hit that like button. Costs you nothing to do it, but it helps me out a whole lot in spreading this information out to as many people who actually want to learn. And again, if you're not subscribed yet, make sure you guys are, and turn on notifications so you're notified every time these videos go live. But until next time, guys, I will see you. Peace.